Sly Cooper 3 Honor Among Thieves is one of my favorite PS2 games, and my personal favorite of the Sly franchise. This is probably just for nostalgia reasons, since Sly 1 was a little too early for me, like I wasn't even out of the womb yet, and I was too scared of the Contessa to ever play that much of Sly 2. I don't know if Sly 3 really is the greatest Sly Cooper game from an overall quality standpoint, although with the diverse gameplay, variety of settings, and engaging characters, it seems like a safe bet. This vast array of gameplay styles, locations, and characters is what I think held the attention of my younger brain for so many hours in front of my giant 4:3 TV. You get to clog sewer pipes in Italy with Murray, mind control miners in Australia with the Guru, launch fireworks in China with the Panda King, and scuba dive under the sea in the Caribbean with Dimitri. But most importantly of all of these missions, of course, is driving your RC car and flying your mini helicopter in Holland with Penelope. Penelope was like my personal hero or something when I was 7. She just instantly became my favorite character of the game. I mean, she easily knew how to hack computers, engineer complex machinery, fly airplanes, and even got a nerd boyfriend. It was basically my nerdy, not like other girls fantasy as a little kid. But besides these more shallow reasons, there was a lot to like about Penelope. She had a spunky yet sweet personality and was always there to lend her creative intellect when the team needed it. Along with that, her storyline in episode 3 and her relationship with Bentley in episodes 4 and 5 added a lot of character to the game's plot. I'm sure most other players didn't have as unhealthy of an obsession with Penelope as I did when I was younger, but she was a generally well-liked addition to the game who players welcomed into the Cooper gang with open arms. So of course, she was brought back for the 4th installment in the Sly Cooper series on the PS3, Thieves in Time. Even though some players were a bit wary of the new development studio handling the game, at least they could look forward to more content with the characters they knew and loved: Sly Cooper, Murray, Bentley, and Penelope.
Apparently, they just finished work on a top-secret project when Penelope had simply vanished.
Well, that's not a good sign. But don't worry, Penelope is in Thieves in Time. You discover her in the 4th episode of the game, piloting the suit of the Black Knight and plotting to erase Sly's lineage from existence. So what happened? What could have caused Penelope to undergo such a drastic change and carelessly throw away the lives of her close teammates? Not even the game itself knows the answer to this question, and that's exactly why this twist doesn't work. Although, it's not like Penelope hasn't been the subject of narrative twists previously in the franchise. Actually, she was introduced to players as the villain. Well, kind of. Let me elaborate. In episode 3 of Sly Cooper Honor Among Thieves, Penelope is introduced when Bentley searches for an RC specialist to help them break into the Cooper vault. While Penelope proves to far exceed the requirements for the job with her extensive knowledge, she doesn't want to take a risk on the Cooper gang and says she'll join their team if they can beat her boss, the Black Baron, in a dogfighting competition called Aces. And if Bentley wasn't motivated to take up her offer before, well, let's just say he is now. The player spends the rest of the episode whittling away at the opposing teams, simultaneously scheming against the Black Baron and working with Penelope. Although something seems a little off about the Baron, he seems very insistent on preventing the contestants from cheating, to the point where he won't let any of them leave their hotels after curfew. And he just seems like a weird guy, but I guess that is par for the course with Sly villains. Either way, players wouldn't be too far off base for assuming something was up based on subtle dialogue hints, and their suspicions would be confirmed when they defeated the Black Baron only to find Penelope beneath the costume. Penelope reveals her identity to the rest of the gang and explains the reason behind the alias was to bypass the age restrictions for joining the dogfighting league. Now that she's been defeated though, she puts the Black Baron to rest, publicly declaring Sly the champion of the Aces contest and officially joining the Cooper gang. This villain twist gave an interesting spin on the Holland episode that made the storyline much more memorable. The concept itself of an antagonist being revealed as an ally is interesting enough, but the execution on the writer's part is what made it work so well in this episode. The plot with the Baron is engaging enough that it doesn't need to rely on the Penelope plot twist, and so the writers can quietly drop in hints while the player is focused on the exciting airplane missions. In a similar vein, the reveal itself is given just enough attention, never taking itself too seriously or exaggerating the shock of the moment. It's fairly simple, but still interesting, and the writers effectively used it to set up Penelope as a cunning character and truly skilled pilot. Obviously, as the game progresses, Penelope isn't the central focus of the episodes anymore, but that doesn't mean the writers are done with her. It's a girl character, what do we do with her? I don't know, just throw her into a love triangle! Don't worry, it's not as bad as you think. From the closing cutscene of episode 3, it's shown that Penelope finds Sly attractive. And I mean, who doesn't? But that's a topic for another video. And these feelings are only reinforced in episode 4. Like, right out of the gate, Penelope is just a hardcore Sly simp. As we all know though, Sly's already got his eye on a certain Interpol officer, and he doesn't reciprocate Penelope's feelings. Still, her one-sided affection for him continues, much to the dismay of nice guy Bentley. All of these unrequited affections come to a head in episode 5, Dead Men Tell No Tales, set in the lawless wasteland of Bloodbath Bay. Sounds like the perfect time for a romantic subplot to me. During the dynamic duo mission, Penelope and Bentley have to work together to find the treasure map that will lead them to Dimitri's ancestral scuba gear. Combining their technological talents, they're able to break into the treasure map's hiding place, although Penelope does get a bit too careless and accidentally triggers a trap, shooting a dust in her face that blinds her. Luckily, Bentley's able to use his grapple cam to pull down the bridge and lead Penelope to safety. More important than the gameplay is the dialogue between Penelope and Bentley during this mission. Bentley is forced to directly address his jealousy of Sly, to which Penelope assures him that just because he doesn't have the same talents as Sly doesn't mean he has no important skills of his own. It's at this moment that they realize they're the only members of the team who share interests in technology and engineering, and their relationship begins to develop. Unfortunately, when the gang tries to retrieve Dimitri's treasure, the villain of the episode, Lafouille, arrives just as they reach the chest, taking Penelope hostage and forcing them to give up the gold. Eventually, they're able to rescue Penelope, with Bentley jumping on Lafouille's ship and releasing her from the prison cell below deck. Again, Lafouille arrives at the most convenient time, and when Bentley is knocked out of his wheelchair, Penelope rushes to defend him from the pirate captain. It's here that Penelope realizes her feelings for Bentley, and the two end the episode as a happy couple, bonding over their love of science, math, and all the other subjects I hate in school. It's the perfect nerd love, and it's a great way to develop Bentley and Penelope's characters. Sly has Carmelita, Bentley has Penelope, and Murray has the van. Murray has the van.
Don't worry, baby! Mama's coming!
After that, Penelope helps the gang break into the Cooper vault, and spends the post-game working with Bentley to create inventions more complex than either of them could have ever made on their own. As a likable and well-written character, she deserves the happy ending, and I'm sure this is the perfect way her story could have wrapped up. Throughout the episode, Penelope fits right into the Cooper gang and grows to really care for her teammates. She goes out of her way to help Murray rescue the van in episode 4, even when it's not necessary to the mission, and risks her life in episode 5 to stop Lafouille and save Bentley. This makes sense, since from the beginning, Penelope was looking for a group of people to work with who she could see as equals. That's why, as the Black Baron, she was so adamant about making sure the contest was fair, and was so willing to give Sly the champion title when he genuinely proved he was a better pilot than her. The Cooper gang, with their range of talents, and with Bentley's advanced intellect in particular, was all Penelope needed to lead a happy and fulfilling life. I'm foreshadowing right now if you haven't noticed. Alright, let's not get stuck in the past. Ready the time machine. We're heading to the future. We're in 2013, and after years of waiting, Sly Cooper is back with another game! It's not made by Sucker Punch though. The change in development teams from Sucker Punch to Sanzaru brought a lot of changes to Sly 4. That's not to imply all of them are bad or that Sanzaru isn't allowed to change anything about the Sly franchise, down to the low poly graphics and all. The different gameplay styles modeled after Sly's ancestors offered a lot of variety to the game, the amazing soundtrack helps give the new development style a familiar feel, and they translated the returning characters into the HD animation style pretty well. For the purpose of this video though, we should focus on the story of Thieves in Time. Right from the start, you can tell there's something a little bit off about the characters. After refreshing the players on his backstory, Sly reveals that he's now living happily with Carmelita under the guise that he has amnesia and can't remember anything about his criminal past. It's the perfect ending for Sly. Or not. He then says he's going to pull another heist just cause he feels like it, but that's not really how Sly acts. The whole reason he became a thief was to get revenge on the Fiendish Five for what they did to his father. He's stealing back the Thievius Raccoonus, he's retrieving the clockwork parts before he can be rebuilt, or he's unlocking the Cooper Vault to find his family fortune. But he's never stealing just for the fun of it, not in a significant way at least. I guess it doesn't really matter since literally a few seconds later, Bentley shows up to warn Sly that someone is using time travel travel to erase the Cooper family from history. I don't know why they didn't just lead with that so they could give Sly a genuine reason to go back to thieving. This probably doesn't seem like an important criticism, and it's not in the sense that it doesn't ruin the game, but it sets up a hamartia for Sly 4. Oh yeah, we're busting out the big brain honors English words now. It's making the characters act out of character just to get the plot to happen, and there's not a clearer example of this than Penelope. After Sly's cutscene, we get a view from Bentley's perspective. He's gone on to set up his own personal laboratory where he creates world-changing inventions with his sexy mouse girlfriend. I'm sorry, what is this design? Why did they make Penelope look like a bad DeviantArt persona? Anyway, they're living their happy ending just like Sly and Carmelita, but it's suddenly interrupted also just like Sly and Carmelita when Penelope mysteriously disappears. Ooh. The plot has no use for her now, but she will be summoned once more. You complete the first 3 episodes, with my personal favorite being Tennessee's episodes because instead of sneakily pickpocketing the guards, you just shoot them dead.
Man, this ain't even fair for you.
There's basically no mention of Penelope until you get to the opening cutscene of episode 4, and the game is like, hey, you guys remember Penelope? The lack of subtlety only worsens as the episode goes on. The premise for this episode is that you must help Sly's medieval ancestor Sir Galeth Cooper, who has been captured after the English town was taken over by the Black Knight. The Black Knight was able to stop the famous Cooper due to his superior technological might, turning the population into his workforce of cyborg soldiers and retrofitting his suit of armor with literal rocket launchers. I wonder who used a fake alias before that began with the word black. I wonder who would have the technological intellect to create an army of cyborgs in a super-powered robo-suit. I wonder who— Okay, it's Penelope. It's clearly Penelope. They literally have the Black Knight wear a Penelope symbol on the center of his armor. I mean, does this not feel like it's insulting your intelligence just a tiny bit? Also, how did Penelope's voice-changing technology get worse? It's literally her exact cadence and diction, but pitch-shifted. Meanwhile, the Black Baron sounded like an entirely different person and, you know, genuinely fooled a good portion of the audience. Still, a twist doesn't need to be unexpected to necessarily be good, and I'm sure there were some little kids out there who were genuinely shocked by the reveal. Although, you must have been a pretty dumb kid, because I remember seeing through this twist immediately even as a 10-year-old. The players move through the rest of Mice and Mechs, waiting for the gang to stop dragging their feet and realize the obvious truth right in front of them. Then, during the Shell-Shocked Heart mission, the truth is revealed to Bentley when he tails the Black Knight. Our poor little turtle is just heartbroken. But like, did you really not see it coming? Can't you hack giant supercomputers and manufacture wheelchair jets with no problem? Unlike Sly 3, where Penelope's moderately surprising reveal as the Black Baron was played with a deserving amount of moderate surprise, Sly 4's unsurprising reveal of Penelope as the Black Knight is played up like it's the end of the world, when I think the better emotion for this scene is less cutting betrayal and more angry disappointment from the players. Penelope goes into full cartoon villain mode and monologues about all of the reasons she changed teams and decided to work for the Paradox, and the reason for her to threaten the lives of her closest friends and romantic partner, the people who she has spent the better part of her life adventuring with and going out of her way to risk her own safety for, is that she wants money. She just wants that girl boss cash. So my next question is, what in the heck could have happened to make her do a complete 180 like this? Remember, nothing in Sly 3 ever indicated that Penelope had a strong desire for power or money. When Sly defeated her at the Aces competition, she publicly declared him the new champion with no sign of reluctance or annoyance. And again, she was willing to risk her life on multiple occasions to help the gang. Why would Penelope betray Bentley by hurting his friends or betray Sly by literally helping to erase him from existence when she has demonstrated nothing but strong relationships with them in the past? I don't know, and not even the game knows, because we aren't shown any events that would reasonably cause Penelope to undergo such a dramatic change. She just says that Sly was holding Bentley back with his honorable thief code, and we aren't shown anything to indicate how she went from a loyal Cooper gang member who just wanted to help her friends to this crazed, power-hungry tech overlord. If anything, the events we are shown completely contradict Penelope's reasoning. Bentley and Penelope went from a seemingly small lab in their basement to this giant tech facility with enough tools to build called a time machine. If Penelope wants to change the world like she says, I think being the first person to create a working time machine would be enough to do it. How does any of this show that Sly is holding them back? What does Sly's policy on only stealing from other thieves have to do with their inventions? Is it because Sly's morality prevents Bentley from making dangerous weapons? Because considering the number of people I have viciously murdered with him in this game, I'm pretty sure that's not true. I mean, maybe Sly's not the kind of guy to want Bentley to create weapons of mass destruction, but why would Penelope want to do that either? I have so many questions. Maybe too many questions. I think I'm getting a little too worked up about this. And the game cannot answer any of them. But look, even if the motivation or line of reasoning doesn't make sense on Penelope's part, if her serving as the antagonist can further another character's growth, maybe the arc can have some merit to it. Obviously, the person most affected by this is Bentley. Sly and Murray are sad about their friend turning evil, but they don't really care since canonically they probably haven't seen her in years. Carmelita has no idea who this is, and I don't think Galeth can hold more than two thoughts at once, so for Bentley, though, it's sad turtle hours. And the player is forced to continue on without him. You make it all the way to the boss battle, and it seems like Sly is done for. But Bentley arrives just in time with a whole new mech suit to get revenge on his crazy gamer girl ex. You beat up Penelope, rescue Sly, and head off to the next location. Wait, what lesson were we supposed to learn again? Bentley's conflict with Penelope is just not engaging, at least not enough to warrant completely screwing over Penelope's character. The only personal struggle for Bentley in this conflict is that he has to fight someone he loves, but it doesn't cause him to change or improve his character. He still has the same principles and worldview as he did before. He just had to get through something unpleasant and move on. One way to make a compelling conflict between a protagonist and antagonist is to have the antagonist challenge the protagonist's worldview. For example, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Ozai challenges Aang's belief that all conflicts can be solved peacefully by making it nearly impossible to defeat him without violence. Or, in My Hero Academia, Stain challenges Ida's belief that heroes are good for society and are an effective way to protect people from harm. In both of these examples, the conflict resulted in different forms of growth for the hero. Aang learned to stand firm in his beliefs, while Ida realized his own personal failings as a hero and worked to improve them. This kind of conflict that invests the viewer emotionally and engages them in a discussion about the clashing worldviews is nowhere to be found in Bentley and Penelope's conflict. Bentley never expresses any struggle with Penelope's beliefs. He's completely opposed to them, actually, and this makes his struggle feel hollow. We're left with the generic message of overcoming difficulty, which doesn't leave nearly enough of an impact to earn completely changing Penelope's character like this. The thing is, they could have tied in this struggle of sacrificing your own gain for your friends, because they've already had this conflict with Bentley before. In the last episode of Sly 3, you travel to Cane Island I just realized it's called Cane Island because you need Sly's cane to open the vault. Oh my goodness. You travel to Cane Island to face off against Dr. M, who has gone insane spending his entire life trying to break into the Cooper vault. In case you don't know, Sly's dad actually had his own Cooper gang that paralleled the current group, with a muscle man named McSweeney and a tech whiz named Dr. M. You confront Dr. M multiple times in trying to sneak past his security to the vault, and during the Stand Your Ground mission, Dr. M attempts to convince Bentley of his philosophy. Bentley had already been having doubts about his importance in the group, feeling a bit resentful that he put in all of this effort to accomplish this mission when Sly is the only one who can actually enter the vault and reap the rewards. Dr. M has convinced himself that these doubts are true, and he tries to get Bentley to do the same, telling him that they're on a different level than the others and could be so much more if their loyalty to the Coopers wasn't holding them back. In the end, Bentley overcomes this conflict and asserts that his brotherhood with Sly and Murray is what keeps him alive, and it's more valuable to him than anything he could accomplish on his own. It's a pretty short arc, but it ties nicely into the game's overall theme of legacy, and it's a good example of an antagonist challenging the protagonist's worldview that results in the protagonist experiencing character growth. Hopefully, you've noticed by now that Dr. M and Sly 4 Penelope's motivations are basically the same. They both view their loyalty to the Cooper gang as a setback that prevents them from reaching their full potential. Except, with Dr. M, Sly 3 properly sets up an internal struggle for Bentley that ties into Dr. M's beliefs, and it creates a compelling conflict where Bentley has to truly confront his own views. In Sly 4, they don't have any kind of setup like this, and it leaves the conflict between Penelope and Bentley to feel superficial and generic as a result. It just feels like a missed opportunity that could have made Penelope's turn to villainy feel a little more valid, but now this whole conflict was pointless for Bentley and Penelope's characters. It also makes me confused as to why they compared the Black Knight to Clockwork when I feel like Dr. M is a much better match. All of these choices are just so confusing confusing and frustrating. Did the writers really not have anything better to do with Penelope? I would have rather they sidelined her in Sly 4 if it meant not ruining her character like this. They could have just had her play the role that Dimitri actually does in the game and have her help the Cooper gang from back home. It would make more sense since Penelope is skilled with technology and would be more willing to do her friends a favor than Dimitri, who can be a little self-absorbed.
These are dangerous waters, and I'm a big, strong, macho man.
Or just make Penelope a playable character, you cowards! Just make the Black Knight like the other villains in the game, and give him a creative backstory that would be 10 times more intriguing than whatever Penelope's nonsensical motivations were. Just because your story has a twist doesn't mean it's good or interesting. I don't blame some of you for thinking I hate Thieves in Time at this point, but I don't want people to think that because it's not true. While not perfect, this was an overall enjoyable entry to the Sly franchise with appealing animation, likable characters, and a lot of cool gameplay features. But there is one thing that I cannot forgive this game for, and it's how they trashed Penelope's character. She went from a valued addition to the Cooper gang who had an interesting backstory and sweet relationship with Bentley, to a crazy ex-girlfriend bent on world domination because that's what villains do. Not only did her motivations contradict her already established character, but her plan to rise up the ranks had no logical reasoning behind it. Oh well, at least Bentley's not falling for her garbage.
You're his puppet! And when you've served your purpose, he's going to cut your strings.